Welcome to the analysis of Act 3, Scene 4 of Hamlet, Prince of Denmark, in our attempt to simplify it. The Act 3, Scene 4 is of great importance due to a series of reasons. Firstly, it's a fairly long scene of around 219 lines, and we have the principal characters, Polonius, Prince Hamlet, Queen Gertrude, and the ghost of King Hamlet in it. The scene satisfies several of the important revenge tragedy conventions. For example, the presence of a very important intrigue which is forged against Prince Hamlet. We have the presence of the supernatural being, the ghost of King Hamlet, who we are going to meet for the last time, and the occurrence of a gruesome murder of Polonius that takes place at the very beginning of the scene. And apart from these, the scene is also a revelatory scene, as it reveals Hamlet's testimony regarding his sanity and his request to his mother to give her validation in favor of him to King Claudius. The scene is also an informative scene, as it informs Gertrude about his departure to the kingdom of England. And the scene also reveals the intuitive nature of Prince Hamlet, as he understands the dangerous and the treacherous nature of his school companions, Rosencrantz and Guildenstern, who are going to accompany him to England during the journey. Therefore, here we find Polonius all set to hide behind the arras, as Prince Hamlet is going to come to the chamber for an open and intimate conversation with his mother for the first time. So after a long time, the mother and son are going to have a very personal conversation, which is going to be overheard by Polonius. A rereading of the conversation between Prince Hamlet and Queen Gertrude reveals three important intentions in the mind of Prince Hamlet. The first objective can be his intention to let his mother know about the sharp divide that is there between her former husband and the present one. Hamlet wants his mother to know about how inferior her present husband, King Claudius, is to the former one. Secondly, Prince Hamlet wants her mother know about his state of sanity. He wants her to know that he is a man of sanity, but feigning madness in order to defend his existence in the palace of Elsinore. He actually wants his mother to validate the truth before King Claudius in his favor. Thirdly, he wants his mother to be weaned off from the lecherous and the adulterous life she currently leads with King Claudius in the palace of Elsinore. So here we found Prince Hamlet to ignite a sense of contrition and a feeling of remorse in the mind of his mother. As Hamlet is ushered for his first secret meeting, he is so much filled with anger and feeling of disgust towards mother, who is so much fallen in his perspective. And he actually wants his mother to be transformed overnight from a vicious woman to a virtuous one. And he comes closer to his mother, uttering the lines, "Come, come, and sit you down. You shall not budge. You go not till I set you up a glass, where you may see the inmost part of you." And here Hamlet intends her to see and understand her gruesome mistakes and to turn over a new leaf. "What wilt thou do? Thou wilt not murder me help who? So Queen, she's so perplexed and she's so much flustered by the excited behavior of Hamlet that she's so much struck with fear and she's calling out for help. And intensely, Polonius is stirring behind the arras, catching the attention of Hamlet, who is intensely filled with fury and instantly thrusting his rapier through the curtain and murdering him. So when Hamlet notices that he has killed Polonius, he is least bothered and least shocked by the deed. Instead, Queen is very upset. She says, "Oh, what a rash and bloody deed is this!" And in response, Hamlet says, "A bloody deed, almost as bad, good mother, as kill a king and marry with his brother." So again, we find how much Hamlet is deeply obsessed by the wrong deed done by his mother. And he is actually trying to convert her and transform her to a better person, to a virtuous woman through his words. And in the following conversation, he is telling more about her former husband, about his father, and trying to compare how virtuous and how much more superior his father was to the satyr-like character Claudius. So his father is compared to Hyperion, whereas his uncle is someone as deplorable as the satyr. And he does not want his mother to get associated with such an inferior person. And very soon we find Queen is giving an appropriate response. "O Hamlet, speak no more. Thou turnest my eyes into my very soul, and there I see such black and grained spots as will not leave their tint." So here we find the Queen is now very much full of remorse, and she has understood that she is guilty, and she is admitting her fault and her sinful state. The critical remarks of Hamlet is so much unbearable now for Queen Gertrude, as she is so much filled with remorse and prick of conscience. And she utters, "O Hamlet, speak no more. Thou turnest my eyes into my very soul, and there I see such black and grained spots as will not leave their tint." So here we find the words of a person whose conscience is truly stirred, and we find she is admitting her faults and she does not want to be taunted anymore. And Hamlet, he does not stop his tirade, and he continues, "Nay, but to live in the rank sweat of an enseamed bed, stewed in corruption, honeying and making love over the nasty stile." So Hamlet is again reminding her about her contemptuous life, and it is indeed an expression of contamination which is intended to create a sense of remorse in her. And the Queen is repeating her expression of remorse. "Oh, speak to me no more. These words like daggers enter into my ears. No more, sweet Hamlet." So, and we find Hamlet continuing, "A murderer and a villain, a slave that's not 20th part of the tithe of your precedent lord, a wise of kings, a cutpurse of the empire and the rule, that from a shelf of the precious diadem stole and put in his pocket." And the Queen continues the refrain, "No more." And at that time exactly, Hamlet is becoming highly vehement in his expression. He says, "A king of shreds and patches. Enter Ghost." So Ghost enters exactly then, and we find Hamlet is sensing the presence of his father, and because he can see the presence of the ghost, even though he is invisible to Gertrude. And Gertrude is not understanding the reason why Hamlet is so much moved, and she is concluding that he has gone mad. And in the following conversation, we find the ghost is chiding Hamlet for being so much critical towards his mother. And here we are reminded of the Act 1, Scene 5, where the ghost is given Prince Hamlet a standing instruction that she should be spared and he should not be judgmental towards his mother. So that is actually the refrain of the ghost, and the ghost does not want Hamlet to taunt his mother anymore. So from this conversation, it's very clear that Hamlet is extremely attached towards his father, and it is actually the extreme admiration, the love and the respect he has for his father that is prompting him to speak in such a critical manner towards his mother. And that again is a very clear expression of how much he is devoted towards his father. And exactly at that time, we find the ghost of King Hamlet intervening and trying to stop him from his tirade so that his mother can be spared. And we find Hamlet is stopping from his reign of critical remarks, and he is following the words of his father. As the conversation between Hamlet and Queen Gertrude comes to an end, we find Hamlet is expressing his strong sense of remorse as the murderer of Polonius. So he is not circumlocuting, but he expresses in clear terms that the action was an impulsive one without a second thought. As he speaks, "From this same Lord I do repent, but heaven hath pleased to punish me with this and this with me, that I must be their scourge and minister." So here what Hamlet speaks here is he is becoming a sharer or a co-sharer of the punishment which has befallen on Polonius and Hamlet. So he is considering himself as someone who is partaking part of the punishment which is endured or suffered by Polonius and Hamlet. So he is considering himself as an instrument of God who has punished Polonius for his mistake which is committed by him, and soon he is expecting himself to bear the punishment of his wrong action for having killed Polonius. So he is becoming more and more justful, and he believes in the providence of God and considers himself as a mere instrument of God. So here we find Hamlet is trying to philosophize his own wrong action by calling Hamlet and Polonius as the partakers of wrong actions. So he claims that he will be reaping the reward of his wrong action in his life, as Polonius has already reaped the reward of his wrong action just now. The conversation between Prince Hamlet and Queen Gertrude comes to an end with his earnest request to the Queen not to betray his true state of sanity and his false appearance of feigned madness in order to safeguard his life and existence in the palace of Elsinore.